Imagine finding yourself in a conversation where the person speaking seems absolutely convinced of their own wisdom, yet every word they say is riddled with misconceptions, half-truths, and overconfidence. You try to reason, to explain, to bring clarity, only to be met with resistance, deflection, or even ridicule. Frustrating, isn't it? But what if I told you there's a way to navigate these situations with precision, intelligence, and clarity? Today, we are going to explore how to outsmart fools, not with arrogance or anger, but with wisdom and strategy. You will discover the psychological patterns that keep people trapped in their own illusions, the tactics used by truly intelligent individuals to maintain their mental clarity, and most importantly, the final revelation that will empower you to break free from the chaos of irrationality once and for all. Throughout history, philosophers, psychologists, and thinkers have studied human folly. From Socrates' exploration of ignorance to modern cognitive science, the patterns remain the same. By understanding these patterns, you can free yourself from frustration, avoid mental traps, and elevate your thinking above the noise of empty arguments and misguided confidence. Why do some people cling so tightly to false beliefs, even when presented with overwhelming evidence? Why do intelligent individuals sometimes feel powerless when dealing with irrationality? And most importantly, how can you protect your own mind from being dragged into confusion and frustration? By the end of this journey, you will have the tools to navigate conversations with clarity, recognize when logic is being distorted, and ultimately make better decisions in your life. The final insight we will reveal is the most powerful of all. It will change the way you see arguments, ignorance, and wisdom forever. To truly understand how to outsmart fools, we must first identify what makes a fool. Is it a lack of intelligence, a refusal to learn, or something deeper? A fool, in the context of our discussion, is not necessarily someone who lacks intelligence, but rather someone who is trapped in a rigid mindset, someone who is unwilling to question their own beliefs or consider new perspectives. The great philosopher Socrates once said, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." A fool, however, operates on the opposite principle. They believe they already know everything. This overconfidence in one's own knowledge is known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, a cognitive bias in which people with limited knowledge overestimate their own expertise. Research by psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger demonstrated that individuals with lower ability tend to rate themselves as highly competent, while those who are truly knowledgeable often doubt their own expertise. So how do you recognize this in real life? A fool will often dismiss complexity, simplify issues beyond reason, and reject evidence that contradicts their worldview. They may be loud, persuasive, or even charismatic, but their arguments lack depth. Now, the real question is, how do you respond? Many people make the mistake of arguing with fools as if logic alone will change their minds. But as the saying goes, never wrestle with a pig. You both get dirty, and the pig likes it. Fools thrive on reaction. The more you engage emotionally, the more power you give them over the conversation. Instead, you must master the art of strategic detachment. The Stoic philosophers, such as Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, taught that true power lies in control over one's own mind. When dealing with irrationality, your greatest weapon is composure. Rather than arguing endlessly, ask pointed questions. Force them to explain their reasoning. Fools often unravel when their own logic is put to the test. Have you ever noticed how some of the most intelligent people are the quietest in a room full of loud voices? This is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of control. When you do speak, speak with precision. Use well-chosen words. A well-placed silence is often more powerful than a long argument. But what if a fool refuses to back down, no matter how clearly you expose their errors? What if they double down on their beliefs, even when faced with undeniable facts? This is where we must explore the deeper psychological forces at play. Confirmation bias, the tendency to seek out and interpret information in a way that confirms pre-existing beliefs, can be so strong that even overwhelming evidence fails to break it. Studies in neuroscience show that when people's core beliefs are challenged, their brains react as if they are under physical attack. This is why logical arguments often fail. They trigger a defensive response rather than a reasoned evaluation. The secret then is not to attack directly, but to plant seeds of doubt. Rather than saying, "You are wrong," try, Have you considered this possibility? Instead of proving them incorrect, lead them to question their own assumptions. True intelligence is not about proving others wrong. It is about guiding them towards self-discovery. But even as you navigate these conversations, there is one final and most important truth to understand, one that will free you from the frustration of dealing with irrationality once and for all. There is a crucial truth that many people overlook when dealing with fools. Not every battle is worth fighting. You see, intelligence is not just about knowing the right answers. It is also about knowing when to walk away. The moment you realize that someone is arguing not to seek truth, but to defend their ego, you must ask yourself, is this discussion serving any purpose? Is there any real exchange of ideas happening? The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer warned about those who argue not to discover the truth, but simply to win. In his work, The Art of Being Right, he describes tactics used by people who have no interest in genuine understanding. They may resort to straw-man arguments, twisting your words to make them easier to attack. They may use ad hominem attacks, focusing on you rather than your points. They may even resort to pure deflection, avoiding your reasoning altogether. And if you are not careful, you will find yourself caught in their web, expending your energy, becoming frustrated, and ultimately gaining nothing from the exchange. So, what is the solution? The greatest minds in history have known that true intelligence lies in choosing your battles wisely. Socrates, for example, did not force knowledge upon those who were unwilling to receive it. Instead, he focused on asking the right questions, leading those who were willing to learn toward deeper understanding. The lesson here is simple. Not everyone is ready for wisdom. This is one of the hardest truths to accept, but it is also one of the most liberating. You cannot force someone to see what they refuse to acknowledge. Trying to convince a fool of their folly is like trying to teach a rock how to swim. No matter how hard you try, the rock will sink every time. Now, does this mean you should give up on all difficult conversations? Not at all. But it does mean you must recognize the difference between a meaningful debate and a pointless struggle. The key lies in identifying whether the person you are engaging with has a genuine curiosity or is simply defending their own illusions. There is a powerful strategy used by great thinkers, debaters, and even negotiators when dealing with close-minded individuals: the mirror technique. Instead of arguing directly, you reflect their words back at them, forcing them to examine their own logic. For example, if someone says, "I know for a fact that I am right and nothing you say will change my mind," instead of challenging them head-on, you respond, "So you believe that being open to new information is unnecessary?" If they say, "Everything I believe is based on facts," you can reply, "If someone showed you evidence that contradicted your belief, would you consider it?" By doing this, you are not attacking them. You are making them confront the rigidity of their own thinking. And in some cases, this alone is enough to plant a seed of doubt. But let us take this a step further. What if you are not just dealing with an individual fool, but an entire culture of misinformation and distorted thinking? In today's world, misinformation spreads like wildfire. Social media has given everyone a platform, and often the loudest voices are not the most knowledgeable, but the most confident. The rise of influencer experts has created a paradox where people trust conviction over competence. Psychologists have found that repeated exposure to misinformation makes people more likely to believe it, even when they know it is false. This is called the illusory truth effect. In a world where falsehoods are repeated endlessly, clarity becomes a rare and valuable asset. So how do you protect yourself from being influenced by foolishness on a larger scale? The answer lies in intellectual self-defense. First, question everything, even your own beliefs. The moment you assume you are beyond being misled, you become vulnerable to it. Even the most intelligent minds double-check their assumptions. Second, seek information from multiple sources. A fool relies on a single perspective. A wise person considers different viewpoints before forming a conclusion. Third, train yourself to recognize emotional manipulation. Misinformation often plays on fear, outrage, or blind loyalty. Whenever you feel an emotional reaction to information, pause and ask yourself, is this feeling clouding my judgment? Finally, and most importantly, master the art of mental clarity. The ability to think clearly in a world full of confusion is a superpower. Clarity is not just about intelligence, it is about focus, discipline, and emotional control. And this leads us to the most powerful insight of all. one that will completely change the way you deal with ignorance, foolishness, and misinformation. Here is the ultimate revelation. The most powerful way to outsmart fools is to stop playing their game altogether. Think about it. Fools thrive on reaction. They draw energy from your frustration. The moment you engage in their chaos, you are already at a disadvantage. But the truly wise do something different. They rise above. Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher, once said, "The wise man is not learned. The learned man is not wise." True wisdom is not about proving yourself right. It is about knowing when to walk away, when to listen, and when to act with precision. So, how do you do this in real life? Let us break it down into 3 fundamental principles. First, detach from the need to be right. Fools argue to win. The wise seek understanding. The moment you feel the urge to prove yourself, pause. Ask yourself, am I speaking to bring clarity or am I speaking to satisfy my ego? If it is the latter, you are already trapped in the same mindset as the fool. True mastery comes from the ability to let go of the need for validation. Second, master the power of silence. Have you ever noticed how the most intelligent people in the room are often the quietest? They observe, they process, and when they do speak, their words carry weight. Silence is not weakness, it is strategy. If a fool is speaking nonsense, let them. Do not waste your energy correcting them. Instead, allow their own contradictions to expose themselves over time. Third, become an immovable force of clarity. In a world of confusion, clarity is power. A fool may try to pull you into their web of distortion, but the wise remain grounded. They do not get swayed by emotional arguments. They do not react impulsively. They think critically. They ask deeper questions. They recognize when a conversation is a dead end and when it is worth pursuing. And this brings us to the most important realization of all, the one that will change how you deal with fools forever. It is not your job to fix them. This is where so many intelligent people make a mistake. They think that if they just explain things clearly enough, if they just provide enough evidence, if they just try harder, the fool will see the truth. But this is an illusion. A person will only see what they are ready to see. No amount of logic will open a closed mind. No amount of truth will change someone who does not want to change. This is why some of the greatest thinkers in history chose their battles carefully. Socrates, instead of arguing with everyone, asked questions to guide the willing. The Buddha, instead of trying to force enlightenment upon others, shared wisdom with those who sought it. Even Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, understood that trying to control the minds of others was futile. What mattered was mastering his own. So here is your ultimate strategy. Become untouchable. When you encounter foolishness, do not react with frustration. Observe. When someone argues for the sake of arguing, do not engage, redirect. When misinformation spreads, do not panic, seek truth. And most importantly, when you recognize that someone is beyond reason, let them go. Fools do not destroy the wise, only those who allow themselves to be dragged down. Your mind is your greatest asset. Protect it, sharpen it, strengthen it. Do not waste it on battles that do not matter. Now ask yourself, what kind of person do you want to be? Do you want to be the one who gets caught in endless arguments, drained of energy, and frustrated by ignorance? Or do you want to be the one who stands above it all, moving through life with clarity, confidence, and wisdom? The choice is yours, and now you know exactly how to make it. And now that you understand the power of clarity, the futility of arguing with fools, and the wisdom of detachment, it is time for the final and most profound lesson, the one that will elevate you beyond the frustrations of ignorance and irrationality forever. It is this: the greatest fools are not the ones out in the world. The greatest fools are the ones we allow to live in our own minds. Think about it. You may avoid arguing with fools. You may disengage from pointless debates. You may even master the art of clarity. But what happens when the fool is you? Yes, every single person, including you and me, is capable of foolishness. No matter how intelligent we are, no matter how much we know, we all have blind spots. We all have moments when we cling to false beliefs. We all experience cognitive biases that cloud our judgment. And the truly wise do not just outsmart external fools, they outsmart the fool within themselves. So how do you do this? How do you ensure that you are not falling into the very traps we have discussed? First, question yourself before questioning others. It is easy to see the flaws in other people's thinking. It is much harder to see them in ourselves, but the wisest people in history, from Socrates to Einstein, were relentless in their self-examination. They constantly asked, what if I am wrong? What if I am missing something? What assumptions am I making? Make this a habit. When you feel absolutely certain about something, pause. Look at the opposite perspective. Test your own reasoning. The moment you stop questioning yourself is the moment you stop growing. Second, embrace the discomfort of being wrong. Most people fear being wrong. They see it as a weakness, a failure, a loss. But in reality, discovering that you were wrong is one of the most powerful things that can happen to you, because it means you are growing. It means you have learned something new. It means you are not trapped in ignorance. This is what separates the truly wise from the truly foolish. Fools defend their ignorance. The wise celebrate their evolution. Third, cultivate intellectual humility. The greatest thinkers in history were not the ones who claimed to know everything. They were the ones who admitted how much they did not know. The moment you believe you have all the answers, you become just like the fools you seek to outsmart. Stay open, stay curious, never stop learning. And now, the final insight, the one that will forever protect you from foolishness, both in others and in yourself. True intelligence is not about winning arguments. It is about mastering yourself. You cannot control the minds of others. You cannot force them to see the truth, but you can control yourself. You can refine your thinking. You can elevate your mind to a level where foolishness, whether from others or from within, no longer affects you. When you reach this level, something incredible happens. The noise of the world no longer disturbs you. The opinions of fools no longer bother you. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself, to argue, to convince. Instead, you move through life with clarity, wisdom, and purpose. And that, in the end, is the greatest way to outsmart fools, by becoming so clear, so grounded, and so intelligent that their ignorance simply ceases to matter. Now take a moment, reflect on everything you have learned today, and ask yourself, how will you apply this wisdom to your own life? Thanks for looking.